Did you know that since 2009, 80 different football clubs have taken part in the Champions League? But yet in more than half of those seasons, the trophy went home with either Barcelona or Real Madrid, as these two clubs have dominated the sport. But how are they so good? How do both of these clubs keep coming back year after year with the best players, teams, and coaches? So, starting with Guardiola's Barcelona and ending with Ancelotti's second Real Madrid side, we're going to see the entire story of how these two clubs consistently broke football for 16 years straight. In 2007, Pep Guardiola was nothing more than a youth academy coach, having never managed a senior team before. But just 1 year later, he was given a shot as the Barcelona manager, and within just one season, he transformed them into arguably the greatest football team of all time, winning 6 trophies in that year alone. In his 4 years there, he broke record after record, created a style of football that changed the game forever, and turned a little Argentinian into the greatest football player on the planet. But how on earth did he do it? How did an unproven manager turn a struggling Barcelona into an unstoppable machine? This is the story of how Pep Guardiola's Barcelona became the greatest football team of all time and destroyed everyone in their path.
The swinger, and short of the goal!
Still Lionel Messi! Pep Guardiola beats Sir Alex Ferguson for the second time in 2 years in the final.
Now, whilst Pep's journey with Barcelona as a manager began in 2008, that's not where the relationship with the club began. So, to understand that, we have to go back to the very beginning, because on the 18th of January 1971, Josep Guardiola, or Pep as we know him, was born in Catalonia, and by the age of 13, he joined La Masia, Barcelona's famous youth academy, where he was quickly recognized for his intelligence and vision on the field. Pep rose the ranks at Barcelona, and he played as a central midfielder with a very distinct style. He wasn't the fastest or the most physically dominant, but he had the gift of understanding the game better than anyone else, a key feature which will always make him stand out later on in his career. In 1990, he was finally promoted to the first team by the icon himself, Johan Cruyff, who was a huge influence on him both as a player and later on as a coach. And under Cruyff, Guardiola became a key part of Barca's dream team, with the likes of Stoichkov, Laudrup, and Koeman becoming the side that won Barcelona's first ever Champions League in 1992 and 4 successive Spanish League titles from 1991 to 1994. Pep Guardiola then went on to become captain of Barcelona in 1997, a role which he held until he left the club in 2001 and continued his playing career with stints in Italy at Brescia and Roma, then moved to Al Ahly in Qatar, and finally joined Dorados in Mexico, where he would end his career with a trophy cabinet consisting of 6 La Liga titles, 2 Copa del Reys, and a European Cup. Pep would then take his first steps into coaching in 2007 when the Barcelona president Juan Laporta and director of football Chiqui Begiristain were considering new candidates to manage Barcelona B, and even though Pep Guardiola had no coaching experience, his deep understanding of Barcelona's philosophy, his intelligence on the field, and his natural leadership skills impressed them and made him the standout candidate. Despite having left the club over a decade ago, Guardiola remained close to Barcelona as he studied the finer points of coaching and continued to develop his vision for the game with the aim of reintroducing a high-intensity, possession-based style that matched Barcelona's DNA. So, in 2007, Pep Guardiola was announced as the Barcelona B coach, and his debut was nothing short of a huge success, since Barcelona B, who had been struggling in Spain's 4th-tier division, showed major improvement under Guardiola, winning the league and securing promotion to the Segunda División B, Spain's 3rd tier. Now, whilst Pep was managing the Barcelona B team, it was Frank Rijkaard who was in charge of the senior squad, and things were not going too well. In the 2007-2008 season, they finished 3rd in La Liga and got knocked out of both the Champions League and the Copa del Rey in the semi-finals, proving a nightmare season in Catalonia, and this meant that change was needed. The Barcelona board were looking for a man to take over and bring glory back to Barcelona, and at that time, they were very close to finalizing things with Jose Mourinho. He had won the Champions League with Porto and won the Premier League with Chelsea for the first time in 50 years, so he was the hottest manager around at the time, and this deal almost went through right up until one man blocked it. Johan Cruyff urged the board to opt for Pep Guardiola instead. He believed that Pep's history with the club, along with his great success with the B team, made him the perfect candidate to take charge. Cruyff saw something in Pep that not many others did at the time, as he was just a young and unproven coach. But despite this, the Barcelona board listened and opted for Guardiola over Mourinho, which would prove to be one of the greatest decisions the club has ever made. But this decision would also mean the club made an enemy out of Jose Mourinho, and this rivalry was one that would get extremely heated over the coming years. But for now, Pep Guardiola was was at the wheel heading into the 2008-2009 season with the goal of taking Barcelona back to glory. And boy, did he deliver. Now, despite underperforming last season, this was not a bad Barcelona team at all. Just a couple of years before this, they lifted the Champions League trophy with a prime Ronaldinho at the epicenter of the team, and entering the 08-09 season, the squad consisted of stars like Messi, Henry, Xavi, Iniesta, and Puyol. They weren't lacking talent, they just lacked direction, and Pep was about to change everything. Guardiola made instant, bold decisions by heavily reshaping the squad, letting go of seasoned players like Ballon d'Or winner Ronaldinho and Deco, as he feared the negative influence their party lifestyle would have on the younger players in the squad, and he brought in key signings like Dani Alves and Gerard Piqué, while promoting young talents like Sergio Busquets and Pedro to the first team. Pep knew from the very start that this team was going to be built around Lionel Messi. He was already one of the best players in the team, but not yet the best player in the world, as Ronaldo had that spot, having won the Ballon d'Or the previous season playing for Manchester United. However, despite all these changes, his new team began with a shaky start in La Liga, as Barcelona lost 1-0 to Numancia and then drew 1-1 with Racing Santander. But things quickly turned around, as Barcelona then went on a remarkable unbeaten run in La Liga for over 20 matches, proving to all the doubters that he had what it takes to achieve glory. And with his squad beginning to click, Guardiola's side stormed through the league with an incredible streak, and come early May, they found themselves sitting 4 points top of La Liga with a crucial El Clasico ahead that would pretty much determine the title. Barcelona thumped Real Madrid 6-2, sending them 7 points clear at the top, and they were crowned champions just the week after, making this Barcelona's first league title since 2006. Pep had got his Barcelona team playing an unseen style of football. Their tiki-taka play, quick passes amongst the midfield, and ruthlessness in attack made them pretty much unstoppable. In the Copa del Rey, Pep's Barcelona secured their spot in the final and then crushed Athletic Bilbao 4-1, making that 2 trophies already for the season. But as great as a domestic double is, there was a bigger prize at stake. They topped their Champions League group with 4 wins, a draw, and a loss, and were drawn against Lyon in the round of 16, where they made light work, winning 6-3 over the 2 legs. In the quarterfinals, they were drawn against Bayern Munich, where, yet again, this Barcelona team made light work of the German giants, winning 5-1 on aggregate, securing their spot in the semifinals, where they played one of the most controversial games in the competition's history against Chelsea. The first leg was played at the Nou Camp and finished as a goalless draw, but come the second leg, the referee was questionable to say the least. Controversial decision after controversial decision, all seemingly going the way of Barcelona. And then, in the 93rd minute, Andres Iniesta stepped up, putting the ball in the back of the net to send this Barcelona team to the Champions League final. Pep's men were now on the cusp of glory, on the cusp of becoming the first Spanish team to ever lift a treble, and the only thing standing in their way was Manchester United, the current champions with Cristiano Ronaldo in their team, the current Ballon d'Or winner. Pep lined up his men, Valdez in goal, a back four with Puyol, Touré, Piqué, and Silvinho, a perfectly balanced midfield with Busquets holding, and Iniesta and Xavi playing ahead of him. Thierry Henry played wide on the left, Samuel Eto'o led the line, and the magical Lionel Messi played in off the right. Pep fielded an unstoppable side, and they made the game look easy, with goals from Eto'o and Messi sealing the final 2 goals to nothing, as Pep's men were crowned champions of Europe. As great as the team was, there was one man who stood out above the rest, as Lionel Messi finished the year with 38 goals and 19 assists in 51 appearances, which secured the little Argentine his first Ballon d'Or. But as well as things were going for Pep Guardiola and his men, the following season would prove to be more dramatic than the first, as they would continue with their great form. But this year, things would turn out differently in Europe, as Jose Mourinho was quietly building a super team over in Milan, and he was going all out to take the Champions League away from Pep and Barcelona in what would be the second of Pep's 4 iconic seasons in Spain. As Pep moved into his second season, he once again felt the need for Barcelona to make some key changes, most particularly a swap that sent top scorer Samuel Eto'o to Inter Milan in exchange for Zlatan Ibrahimovic, with 48 million euros added to the deal. And this player swap would very soon prove to be highly significant, as we'll soon see. Alongside Ibrahimovic, Barca reinforced their squad by signing Maxwell, together with a few other signings and promotions from La Masia, as Pep's go-to starting 11 now consisted of Victor Valdez in net, Maxwell, Piqué, Piqué, Puyol, and Dani Alves in defense, with Busquets ahead of them as the holding midfielder. Xavi and Iniesta were partnered together in the midfield, and up front the lethal trio of Zlatan, Messi, and Pedro, who claimed Henry's spot. The season kicked off with the Spanish Super Cup in August as Guardiola's side continued their success by overcoming Athletic Bilbao, where in the first leg, Xavi and Pedro scored to secure a 2-1 victory away from home, followed by a dominant 3-0 win at Camp Nou with a brace from Messi and a goal from Boyan, claiming the first of what would be 6 trophies in 2009, which shall come very soon. And just days later in Monaco, Barca faced Shakhtar Donetsk in the UEFA Super Cup, which proved to be a tense match that was decided in extra time by a late Pedro goal, marking their 5th trophy of the year. They started the league campaign in a great way too, opening the season with a 3-0 win against Sporting Gijón, and they carried this momentum through the first half of the season as they went the first 21 games unbeaten in the league as they were storming to their second La Liga title. In this time, they also lifted the Club World Cup by beating Mexican club Atlante in the semi-final and winning against the Argentine side Estudiantes in the final, where in extra time, Messi's winning goal secured a 2-1 victory. And with that, Barca had completed the incredible achievement of claiming 6 trophies within a single calendar year, making Guardiola the first manager in history to accomplish this incredible feat. Come the 14th of February, Guardiola's men would face their first defeat of the season as Atletico Madrid put 2 goals past Barcelona to win the game 2-1. This defeat would prove to be the only defeat in Barcelona's league campaign as they went the remainder of the season unbeaten, finishing top of La Liga with a record-breaking 99 points, 3 points clear of second place Real Madrid. But despite all this domestic success, not everything went Guardiola's way this season as they faced disappointment in the Copa del Rey as Sevilla knocked them out in the round of 16, and then taking a look to Europe, they couldn't emulate the success of last season as one man stood in their way. Barcelona made their way to the Champions League semi-finals where they faced Jose Mourinho's Inter Milan. Despite playing in 2 different leagues, the rivalry between Pep and Mourinho was already clear since Pep had taken Mourinho's spot at Barcelona just the year before, and of course, Jose was still very bitter from that. This was like fire against ice, the attacking Barcelona versus the defensive Inter Milan, the 2 best managers in the world, and in the end, Pep's Barcelona were defeated as Jose won the first leg at the San Siro 3-1 with a Melito masterclass, scoring 1 and assisting 2, but it's in the return fixture where all the drama occurred. Within 28 minutes of the match, Inter's Thiago Motta received a red card, and now with 10 men playing away against Barca, it was looking like it was going to be a sure victory for Barca, but Jose Mourinho simply walked up to Pep and told him, "You think this is over? This is far from over." It was now a game of the mind. Inter shut up shop. They stifled Messi, and despite a late goal from Piqué, Inter managed to hold on. And as the final whistle blew, Mourinho went sprinting down the touchline, finger in the air, flexing his spot in the Champions League final in front of Pep. Jose's Inter eventually went on to win the Champions League, and hugely thanks to their striker Samuel Eto'o, who Pep traded for Zlatan that same year. And whilst Eto'o was tearing it up in Milan, the same couldn't be said for Zlatan, as his relationship with Guardiola had deteriorated over the season, causing a severe falling out between the two. But despite these season's cup setbacks, Guardiola's men could still call this season a success as they ended it with 4 trophies and a plethora of individual awards. Xavi was named the 2009 World's Best Playmaker, with Messi and Iniesta placing 2nd and 4th respectively, and Guardiola himself was awarded the title of 2009 World Club Coach as he proceeded to sign a 1-year extension to remain at the club until the end of the 2010-11 season, where he was not going to let someone get the better of him in Europe again. As Pep kicked off his 3rd season in charge of Barcelona, he was hungry for more and started the 2010-11 season with a bang, as just 3 days in, he made a huge move, signing Spanish star David Villa from Valencia for €40 million and then Javier Mascherano for €24 million from Liverpool. He then decided to let go of Ukrainian center-back Dmitry Chigrinsky and midfielder Yaya Toure, who made a move to Manchester City despite Pep's desire to keep him, and by August, 2 more football giants left the club, and Thierry Henry, who ended his contract to join the MLS, together with Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who left back to Serie A after the falling out with Pep. Barcelona kicked off La Liga with conviction, but soon faced a concerning challenge in September when Lionel Messi was sidelined with an ankle injury following a brutal tackle during a game against Atletico Madrid in a 2-1 victory. Thankfully, Messi was only out for 2 weeks and quickly returned to Pep and his team to prove a point, and soon enough, in November, an iconic Clásico against Real Madrid would unfold, where Guardiola's team delivered a 5-0 8-0 thumping at the Camp Nou, showcasing their mastery of tiki-taka and proving why Messi, Xavi and Iniesta were hailed as the world's top players. But the cherry on the cake for this game was the fact that none other than Jose Mourinho was the manager of Real Madrid, as he came to La Liga with the intentions of reigniting his rivalry and dethroning Pep and his team. But Pep wasn't going to let Jose beat him again and ended up thrashing the Galacticos, who had the likes of Ronaldo, Di Maria and Kaká in the team. The Real Madrid president made a fool out of Jose Mourinho as he described this game as the worst match in Madrid's history. This Clásico win secured Barcelona's lead in La Liga by 2 points ahead of Real Madrid, setting them up for an intense battle for the league title, and at the end of the year, Pep's players were destined for individual glory yet again, as Messi, Xavi and Iniesta were announced as the top 3 finalists for the Ballon d'Or, with Messi being named the winner for the second year in a row. Heading into the new year, Barcelona, unfortunately, had their unbeaten run ended by Real Betis in the Copa del Rey, but they surged on with an elite mentality and proceeded to equal Real Madrid's record of 15 consecutive league wins with a victory over Hercules, and even breaking the record in February with a 3-0 win against Atletico Madrid, with a stunning hat-trick by none other than, you guessed it, Lionel Messi. The team also marched into the Copa del Rey final after defeating Almeria and was set to face Real Madrid in another long-awaited Pep vs Jose showdown, in which Cristiano Ronaldo scored the only goal in extra time with a powerful header from a Di Maria cross, sealing the win for Jose over Pep. But Guardiola wasn't going to let things slide that easily, because only days after the Copa del Rey final, Real Madrid and Barcelona met again, this time in the Champions League semi-finals, where Lionel Messi scored twice in the last 15 minutes of the first leg at the Santiago Bernabeu to give Barcelona a strong 2-0 advantage, and though the second leg at Camp Nou ended 1-1, it was enough to send Barcelona through to the final, knocking Jose and his team out to give Pep the last laugh of the season. Further on into Pep's third season, Barcelona went on to capture their third consecutive La Liga title with a 1-1 draw against Levante, ensuring they remained at the top of the table with a 4-point lead over Madrid. And to top it all off, Barcelona ended the season with a club record 14 away wins after defeating Malaga 3-1. But this was not enough, as Barca were so in form that they even went on to claim their 4th Champions League trophy by outclassing Manchester United 3-1, meaning Pep got the better of Man United for the second time in 3 years in the Champions League final. Lionel Messi was named man of the match, and he was the star the entire season, as he ended the Champions League campaign with 12 goals, breaking the record for the most goals in a single season. The 2010-2011 season finished with a double and a single match away from a treble, but this is where this Barcelona team would unfortunately reach their peak, as come the 2011-12 season, Jose Mourinho's Real Madrid were coming back stronger than ever in the league, and things would start to slip out of Pep's hands for once. Barcelona's 2011-12 season was packed with thrilling matches, big milestones, and a few tough moments that gave Pep Guardiola's final year as Barca's manager a bittersweet ending. The transfer window was pretty calm, with only a few changes to the squad. He signed the Chilean winger Alexis Sanchez from Udinese for about 37 million euros, giving a big boost to Pep's team in his final season, and also brought in Cesc Fabregas from Arsenal for around 40 million euros, meaning Barcelona officially had the most insane midfield ever, with Fabregas, Iniesta, Xavi and Busquets all in the team. Barcelona began the season by facing their fierce rivals Real Madrid in the Supercopa de España, ending in an exciting 2-2 draw at the Santiago Bernabeu, and only 3 days later on August 17th, Barcelona turned up the heat and beat Real Madrid 3-2 at Camp Nou, clinching the Supercopa with a 5-4 aggregate score, and Messi shining by scoring twice, including the game winner. But the match ended up becoming super intense, especially after Marcelo's foul on Fabregas, which sparked a brawl that led to multiple red cards. But at the end of the day, this thrilling victory was just another notch on Pep's belt against Mourinho's Real Madrid, setting the tone for an exciting season ahead. Not soon after, Barcelona then claimed the UEFA Super Cup with a 2-0 victory over Porto, marking Barca's 4th Super Cup and giving Fabregas his first ever goal in a Barcelona shirt. As the league campaign began, injuries began to plague the team, as newly signed Alexis Sanchez tore his hamstring, sidelining him for weeks, while Iniesta was ruled out for a month with a femoral bicep tear. But despite this, Messi continued to shine, because after 2 consecutive draws, Barcelona responded emphatically with an 8-0 win over Osasuna with a Messi hat-trick. And on the 28th of September, Barca defeated Bate Borisov 5-0 in the Champions League, with Messi's brace bringing him level with Laszlo Kubala as Barcelona's second all-time scorer with 194 goals. Roll on December, and we witness yet another thrilling Clásico as yet again Pep's Barca triumphed 3-1 over Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, and soon enough the Club World Cup in Japan brought Barcelona more silverware with a dominant 4-0 win over Santos, where Messi's brace, along with goals from Xavi and Fabregas, saw the team clinch their 5th title of 2011. The new year began with Pep winning FIFA Coach of the Year, along with Messi winning his 3rd consecutive Ballon d'Or on January 9th, and soon after Barcelona eliminated Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey with a 2-2 draw at the Camp Nou, advancing on aggregate and making a fool out of Jose Mourinho yet again. But this year, it was Jose who would eventually get the last laugh. But more on that soon. As the season progressed, Messi was setting more records, netting 5 goals against Bayer Leverkusen in the Champions League, becoming the first player to achieve such a feat in the competition's history. However, in the league, things started to take a turn for the worse as a 2-2 draw with Villarreal put Barcelona 7 points behind a stellar Real Madrid, with Jose gaining back his momentum. April was a bitter month for all Barca fans as their team advanced to their 5th consecutive Champions League semi-final, but were ultimately eliminated by Chelsea, drawing 2-2 at the Camp Nou in a dramatic match. And to top it all off, on the 27th of April, Guardiola announced that he would step down at the end of the season. Just a couple weeks later, Real Madrid were crowned La Liga champions, putting an end to Pep's domestic dominance, but Barcelona had one last chance to lift silverware that season, which they did in fact accomplish, winning the Copa del Rey final 3-0 against Atletico Madrid. It was then confirmed that Tito Vilanova would be the man set to take Pep's place as manager, but Guardiola definitely left massive shoes to fill. But after Pep's departure, it didn't take long for a new man to arrive in Spain and take over football. But this time, it would be done in the Bernabeu instead, because over the next 2 seasons, Jose Mourinho would lose control of Real Madrid, and that's when Carlo Ancelotti arrived for his first stint at the club. Carlo Ancelotti's Real Madrid journey began in 2013, but by that point, he was already one of the greatest managers of all time and also had one hell of a playing career, so let me fill you in quickly. Like most top managers, Carlo was also a top player, having started his career in Parma, then moving to Roma before reaching his career pinnacle with AC Milan, where he played for 5 years and lifted 2 Champions League trophies in 1988 and 1992, playing a key role in the team. He was a great midfielder, but unfortunately, his career had come to an end at the age of 33 because of recurring knee injuries, but it didn't take him long before he entered the next chapter of his life, because in 1992, he was named the manager of Regionallo, and he quickly began to earn his stripes on the touchline. So, after just 1 year there, he took the step to become the manager of Parma, and here's where he learned one of the most valuable lessons of his career, and one we see shining through his managerial style today. Carlo was set on his style of play, always opting for a 4-4-2 formation, so when he was offered one of the best players in the world in Roberto Baggio, he rejected him because he didn't fit the style. He realized this was a massive mistake, and from this moment onwards, he made sure that his tactics and management style would always shift to accommodate the players in the team, something which can be seen in all of his Real Madrid sides over the years. After Parma, he spent a couple of years at Juventus, where he managed Zinedine Zidane, the man who would later become his assistant coach at Real Madrid, and then Carlo finally landed the biggest job of his career thus far, as he was placed in charge of AC Milan. Here, he created one of the greatest football teams of all time, lifting 2 Champions Leagues in his 8-year stint there, which lasted from 2001 to 2009. But he cemented himself already as one of the greatest managers of all time, but his legacy would only grow from there. After Milan, he moved to Chelsea for 2 years, where he won the double, and then to PSG for 2 years, where he guided them to their first league title in almost 20 years. And this is when a job in Spain opened up. Jose Mourinho had just been sacked from Real Madrid after taking the club to a league title and then running the team to the ground, leaving them trophyless in the 2012-13 season as Barcelona were back on top of Spanish football. When Carlo received the call to manage the biggest football club in the world, this was a no-brainer, but this also was not an easy task. This team wasn't in a great place, finishing the previous season with big issues in the dressing room after a fallout with the manager, and despite the size of the club, they hadn't been dominating football for a while, having gone over 10 years without a Champions League. But the day Ancelotti arrived, everything was going to change. Now, by all means, this was not a bad Real Madrid team. They just lacked direction, which is exactly what Ancelotti gave them. When he arrived, it was also announced that Zinedine Zidane would become his assistant coach, and right away, Carlo started to make some changes to the squad. He offloaded some big names like Carvalho, Essien, Kaká, Higuain, and Ozil, and he used the funds to bring in Carvajal, Casemiro, Isco, Illarramendi, and most notably of all, Gareth Bale, for a world record transfer fee to become Real Madrid's latest Galactico signing. Now, the squad was in place, and Ancelotti quickly discovered his preferred formation with Casillas in net, a back four consisting of Carvajal, Pepe, Ramos, and Marcelo, Xabi Alonso holding the midfield with Modric and Di Maria playing ahead of him, and then the deadly attacking trio of Bale, Benzema, and Cristiano Ronaldo. This season began in August 2013 with a 2-1 victory over Betis, but they began the Champions League campaign in even better fashion with a 6-1 thumping over Galatasaray, with a Ronaldo hat-trick, a Benzema brace, and an Isco goal. This hat-trick from Ronaldo was not uncommon and was the story of the season as he was scoring goals left, right, and center throughout the entire year. Ancelotti's men continued on this good vein of form until they faced Atletico Madrid in September, where they were defeated 1-0 in a game that would be so decisive come the end of the season. This Atletico-Real rivalry was at its peak this year, and we'll be talking about it a lot more soon. But things went from bad to worse for Real Madrid as they also lost their first El Clasico of the season, meaning both their rivals got the better of them early on, but they would bounce back in style as Carlos Madrid went unbeaten through all of November and December, meaning come the new year, they were through to the Champions League knockout stages, still in the Copa del Rey, and were climbing up the La Liga table at a rapid rate. Things were clicking under Ancelotti, and hope was brewing in Madrid, something that was so distant the year before under Mourinho. Come March of this year, and La Liga was a 3-horse race between rivals, but the title came down to 2 crucial games that month. Real Madrid dropped points against Atletico, and then in the second La Liga El Clasico, they were beaten 4-3 with a Messi hat-trick in what is considered to be a controversial game. And then, come May, still with a chance at the title, Real Madrid only managed to win 1 out of 4 games, meaning Atletico Madrid topped La Liga, Barcelona came second, and Real Madrid trailed in third just 3 points off the top spot, meaning these crucial defeats cost them the league title. But in the cup competitions, Ancelotti's men were able to get revenge on both their rivals, with the first happening in April as they played the Copa del Rey final against Barcelona. Real Madrid finished this game 2-1 thanks to goals from Di Maria and Bale, with Bale's being one of the most iconic solo goals in football history. So, just like that, Ancelotti's men picked up their first trophy of the season. But now, let's talk about the biggest prize of them all, as this Real Madrid side conquered European football that year. This competition had been one Real Madrid had been chasing for almost a decade, as they were in search of La Decima, which meant their 10th Champions League title. In the group stage, they were electric, with Ronaldo breaking the record for the most group stage goals ever with 9. Come the round of 16, and they battered Schalke in the first leg 6-1 with a brace for Bale, Benzema, and Ronaldo, and then a 3-1 second leg victory meant a comfortable ride to the quarterfinals. They were drawn against Borussia Dortmund, the previous year's finalists, and despite a calm 3-0 victory in the first leg, they were beaten 2-0 away from home, but that was enough for them to win the tie on the whole, sending them to the semis, where things should have been way harder than they were. They faced Bayern Munich, the title holders, and finished the first leg 1-0 with a Karim Benzema goal. But when they traveled away for the return fixture, they turned Bayern into training practice, demolishing them 4-0 with a brace from Ramos and Ronaldo, sending them through to the final to face their city rivals, Atletico Madrid. This game was massive. Real Madrid had lost the league title to them, and they were not going to lose another major trophy. But things were not looking good for Ancelotti's men, because Diego Godin scored in the first half and were able to hold on to this lead all the way till the 90th minute, where Real Madrid won a corner and Sergio Ramos hammered the ball home to send the game to extra time. This last-minute lifeline gave Ancelotti's men the mental boost to shift into gear as they scored 3 goals from Bale, Marcelo, and Ronaldo to seal the game 4-1 and hand Real Madrid their historic 10th Champions League title and Carlo Ancelotti his first with the club. And, as you know, this will not be his last, but more on that soon. This season, Cristiano Ronaldo took all the headlines as he broke the Champions League goal-scoring record with 17 in a season and finished the entire season with 51. Bale and Benzema both broke the 20-goal mark also, and Angel Di Maria pitched in with 11, but he was arguably the most important player in this team, which was proved even further with what happened in Ancelotti's second season in Madrid. Entering the 14-15 season, Ancelotti sold Xabi Alonso and Angel Di Maria whilst signing key players in Kroos, James Rodriguez, and Chicharito Hernandez, and they began the season strong, winning the UEFA Super Cup and going on a 22-game winning streak all the way until January. They won the Club World Cup also, but in February of this year, things would start to turn south for Ancelotti. Atletico Madrid embarrassed Los Blancos with a 4-0 drubbing in the league, but Real still sat on top of the table. The previous season, they were so close to a treble, and this was their target this year, but within just a couple of months, it would all fall apart. Barcelona had quietly put together a dream team spearheaded by Messi, Suarez, and Neymar, and nothing was going to stop them. In March, Real lost 2-1 in El Clasico, and Barcelona used this victory to propel them to the La Liga title, finishing the season in first place, 2 points ahead of Real Madrid. Real were also knocked out of the Copa del Rey by Atletico Madrid and knocked out in the Champions League semi-finals by Juventus, meaning they finished the season with no major trophies. Ronaldo had his best season ever, scoring 61 goals as he flourished under Ancelotti, but unfortunately, things had turned south in the capital, and come the 25th of May, President Florentino Perez made an announcement saying, "We've taken the difficult decision to relieve Ancelotti of his duties with immediate effect." Ancelotti won the hearts of both the board and the fans and will always have a place in the club's history. However, at this club, the demands are huge and we need a new impulse in order to win trophies and be at our best. In all fairness, this was the right call, as over the next 3 seasons, Real entered their Zidane era, winning back-to-back Champions League titles, but it wouldn't be long before they would be back in a bad state and would need Ancelotti to come save them for the second time. But before Ancelotti's return, and even before the Zidane three-peat, we have to talk about that MSN team because, wow, what a side it was. So, let me tell you all about it. In 2014, Barcelona got knocked out of the Champions League, the Copa del Rey, and finished second in La Liga. But just 1 year later, they won all 3, lifting a historic treble. But for this to happen, Barcelona had to put together the deadliest front 3 in world football, with Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, and Neymar Jr. terrorizing European football. But how did this all happen? Well, it started in 2013, when Lionel Messi was the main man at Barcelona. They had just won La Liga with a record-breaking 100 points, with Lionel Messi truly carrying the team, scoring 60 goals in the season. Barcelona's second top scorer was David Villa, who only scored 16 goals, meaning the pressure was all on the Argentine magician. Despite this record-breaking La Liga victory, Barcelona were embarrassed in the Champions League, losing 7-0 on aggregate to Bayern Munich, and they also lost the Copa del Rey, so Barcelona knew they couldn't keep relying on one man to win them games, and they decided something had to change. Luckily, at this time, there was a young winger playing in Brazil who was making waves in world football. At 22 years old, Neymar had already played 230 matches with 203 goals and assists for Santos. He was the next big Brazilian star and a perfect fit for this Barcelona team. So on the 3rd of June 2014, Neymar made a €57 million move to Spain, as Barcelona now had the second piece of the puzzle in place. This next season at Barcelona was a transitional one. David Villa, who was the second top scorer, left for their rivals Atletico Madrid, which meant this Neymar transfer had to work even more. Thiago left for Bayern Munich, and big players like Puyol and Xavi were getting older, which is a big reason why this season played out as it did. In the Champions League, they made it to the quarterfinals, where they faced Atletico Madrid. The first leg saw a 1-1 draw with a Neymar goal, but Barcelona ended up losing the second leg 1-0, meaning they only made it to the last 8. In the Copa del Rey, the final was played out between Barcelona and Real Madrid, making for a historic El Clasico match, but Real Madrid were able to get the better of their rivals this time round as they closed the game with a 2-1 victory, and then, to top it all off, this La Liga season came down to the final game, where Atletico Madrid played against Barcelona, and they were only 3 points apart at the top of the table. Atletico Madrid held out for a 1-1 draw and managed to lift La Liga, meaning Messi and Neymar had missed missed out on all 3 major trophies that season. Neymar ended his first season in Spain with 15 goals in 41 games. Messi showed a decrease in output from the previous year, scoring 41 goals, but both of them faced injuries in the second half of the season. And all in all, this was a frustrating year for Barcelona, as there was just something missing. But little did they know they were one bite away from the promised land, and within just one season, everything was going to change. On the 1st of July 2014, Barcelona appointed Luis Enrique as their new manager, and he began by making some significant changes within the squad. He signed 2 goalkeepers in Claudio Bravo and Ter Stegen. Cesc Fabregas and Alexis Sanchez were both sold to Premier League clubs to free up some cash, which they used to sign Ivan Rakitic and the final piece to the puzzle, Luis Suarez. This Suarez transfer was an interesting one to say the least. He was arguably the best striker in the world at the time, having come off the back of a historic season with Liverpool. He almost won the Premier League and finished as the league's top scorer, breaking the goal-scoring record. He'd spent 4 seasons at Liverpool, where he scored 82 goals in 133 appearances, and Barcelona were able to get him for £75 million, a bargain for the quality of player they were getting. But they were only able to get this bargain because Suarez signed while serving a 4-month ban for professional football. Suarez had just taken part in the 2014 World Cup, where Uruguay faced Italy, and Luis Suarez decided to bite the Italian defender Giorgio Chiellini. This meant that Suarez wasn't allowed to play football until the 26th of October, but he was still allowed to train and instantly began to build a connection with his new teammates. So, heading into the start of the new season, Luis Enrique was at the helm. Neymar had a year of experience in Spain. Messi was the same world-class player as before, and Suarez was sitting in the shadows, eager for his debut to arrive. Simply put, Barcelona were ready to cook. They opened the season on the 24th of August with a 3-0 victory against Elche with a brace from Lionel Messi, and the team would go on to build on this momentum throughout the start of the season. On the 27th of September, they put 6 goals past Granada with Neymar's first hat-trick of the season, a brace from Lionel Messi, and a goal from the new signing Rakitic. The opening portion of the season was electric for Barcelona. Neymar and Messi were on fire, but they were just waiting for their number 9 to join the party. And on the 25th of October, Barcelona played their first El Clasico of the season, and Luis Suarez made his debut. But this game didn't go as they hoped. Neymar bagged a goal to give Barcelona an early lead, but Cristiano Ronaldo, Pepe, and Karim Benzema each got a goal to win the game 3-1. Pain. Just 6 days later, things would go from bad to worse as Barcelona lost against Celta Vigo and now found themselves 4th in the league table. But despite this rough patch, this team was just charging up, as Messi, Suarez, and Neymar were still getting used to playing with each other, and once things fell into place, MSN would kick into gear and really start the first of 3 historic seasons playing together. Luis Suarez looks back on this time and says that the turning point this season was the tactical shift, because initially Messi was playing as a false 9 with Suarez and Neymar on the wings, but once Messi moved on to the right, Neymar on the left, and Suarez down the middle, MSN was born. And as the turn of the year came, they went on an 11-game winning streak until the 21st of February, where they suffered a defeat to Malaga. They would bounce back as they played Manchester City in the first knockout round of the Champions League, winning 3-1 on aggregate, putting them into the quarterfinals. And just 4 days later, on the 22nd of March, they played the second El Clasico of the season, this time winning 2-1, which put Barcelona 4 points at the top of the table. By the 11th of April, this lead would drop to only 2 points as they drew against Sevilla. But by this point in the season, Barcelona were still in all competitions and had the chance of winning the lot. Hope started to brew in Catalonia, and this was further amplified with a 5-1 aggregate victory in the Champions League against PSG, where Suarez bagged a brace and Neymar bagged 3 goals over the 2 matches. Barcelona were just getting better and better, winning 6-0 against Getafe at the end of April, with Messi and Suarez both bagging a brace and Neymar with 1 goal. Then, in just the next match, Barcelona won 8-0 with a Suarez hat-trick, Messi brace, and a Neymar goal, as this front 3 was now being labeled the greatest trio in Europe. On the 6th of May, Barcelona faced off against Bayern Munich, and this is a game that has gone down in history, as Neymar scored 1 and Messi scored 2, with Messi's second goal being one of his greatest ever, as he sat Jerome Boateng on the floor before chipping the goalkeeper. Barcelona lost the second leg 3-2, but it was enough for them to still make it to the final. A couple of weeks later, Barcelona collected the first of 3 trophies that season as they defeated Atletico Atletico Madrid 1-0, securing them the La Liga title. 2 weeks later, Barcelona played the Copa del Rey final, where Barcelona won the game 3-1, with Messi scoring another truly great goal as he dribbled from half-pitch, toying with the defenders before slotting the ball in the bottom corner. Now, with one game left to play in the season, this Barcelona team were eager to become eternal, and that is exactly what they did as they beat Juventus 3-1 in the Champions League final, thanks to goals from Rakitic, Suarez, and Neymar in order to lift the third trophy of the season and complete the treble. Barcelona became the first team in Europe to win 2 trebles, and a lot of the credit goes down to this attacking trio. Suarez scored 25 goals in 43 games, Neymar scored 39 goals in 51 games, and Messi scored 58 goals in 57 games, which added up to 122 goals for the season, breaking the scoring record for an attacking trio. But just 1 year later, MSN would manage to break this record that they just set as they were entering the second of 3 historic seasons together. Heading into the 2015-16 season, the squad remained basically the same, with the only notable exit being Xavi, who retired from professional football. Barcelona started the season as they'd finished the previous one, strong and firing on all fronts, but at the end of September, they faced a big blow as Lionel Messi picked up a knee injury, leaving him out for 6 weeks. If this happened in 2013, Barcelona would be stranded without a star attacker, but now Neymar and Suarez were more than capable of doing the job. On the 21st of November, Barcelona played their first El Clasico of the season as they thrashed Real Madrid 4-0, thanks to a brace from Suarez and goals from Neymar and Iniesta. As this season progressed, Luis Suarez continued to grow, picking up more and more goals, and this season is where we would see Luis Suarez cement himself as the best striker in world football. At the turn of the year, Lionel Messi was handed the Ballon d'Or for the year of 2015, making it the 5th in his career, and Barcelona just kept on winning. They were currently on a historic unbeaten streak, and on the 3rd of March, thanks to a 5-1 throbbing over Rayo Vallecano, they set the Spanish record for 35 games in a row unbeaten, breaking the record that was held by Real Madrid since 1989. MSN just continued getting goal after goal, beating Arsenal in the Champions League, and they were now starting to see the possibility of another treble. But April would prove to be a difficult month for Barca as they started with an El Clasico defeat, which ended their record 39-game unbeaten run. They were then knocked out of the Champions League by Atletico Madrid as they lost 3-2 on aggregate, and this started a Barcelona losing streak as they lost 3 La Liga games in a row. Within just 3 weeks, the entire season was being put into doubt, but on the 20th of April, Barcelona, and particularly Luis Suarez, weren't ready to give up that easily. Suarez scored 4 goals and assisted 3 in an 8-0 victory to end their losing streak. 3 days later, Suarez scored 4 more goals in a 6-0 victory over Sporting Gijón, and this form continued through the back end of the season. On the 14th of May, the final game of the season, Barcelona had to win to lift a league title, and a big game like this called for a performance from none other than Luis Suarez, who bagged a hat-trick to lift his 2nd league title in a row. 8 days later, Barcelona played the Copa del Rey final, beating Sevilla 2-0 in extra time to make it a double for the season. Somehow, this season MSN got even better than the last as they picked up 130 goals and 77 assists in 128 games together. Suarez was the star man this year as he scored 59 goals and recorded 26 assists as he won the European Golden Boot and became the first player to ever finish as La Liga top scorer and assister. But despite this amazing season for Barcelona, there was a power shift happening in Spain as Real Madrid were looking to fight back against this Barcelona dominance under their new manager Zinedine Zidane, who had just won the Champions League in his first season. So MSN were going to have to produce magic once again to be able to fight off this new Spanish super team. Heading into the 2016-17 season, Dani Alves left the club after 8 great seasons there, and Neymar signed a new 5-year contract, which would see him playing in Spain until 2021. But as this season would progress, Neymar would get second thoughts about his future in Barcelona. But for now, Barca started off electric, kicking off La Liga with a 6-2 win against Betis with a hat-trick from Suarez and a brace from Messi. Even the Champions League season started strong for Barcelona, specifically with a 7-0 win against Celtic, where Messi bagged a hat-trick and Neymar got 4 assists as MSN continued their fine form. On the 15th of December, Luis Suarez also negotiated a contract extension that would keep him playing till 2021, so at this point in time, MSN was here to stay, which was not a a good sign for other European teams. This season overall wasn't Barcelona's best season, but the key moment this year was the Champions League round of 16 tie against PSG. Barcelona played the first leg away in Paris, where they were demolished 4-0, which really should have been enough to seal the tie. But when the second leg was played at the Camp Nou, something magical was in the air. Suarez scored early to make it 1-0, and in the 40th minute, Barca made it 2-0 thanks to Kurzawa's own goal. There was now hope heading into the second half, which was quickly amplified with a penalty falling into the hands of Lionel Messi. 10 minutes later, Cavani got a crucial away goal for Paris, which meant that Barcelona would have to score 3 to go through, a seemingly impossible task. In the 88th minute, Neymar scored a free kick. In the 91st minute, Neymar scored a penalty, and then, with seconds left on the clock, Neymar whipped a free kick into the box, where Sergio Roberto was able to tap the ball into the net as Barcelona completed one of the most dramatic comebacks in football history. This was such an impossible victory that Neymar went on to get a tattoo saying 1% chance, 99% faith to celebrate this game. After this, Barcelona felt unstoppable, thinking they were back on top of the world, but things started to go wrong from here. Luis Enrique had announced he will be leaving the club at the end of the season, meaning change was coming, and Barcelona were knocked out of the Champions League in the next round by Juventus, marking the end to their European campaign. Now at this point, the league title was in Real Madrid's hands, but a historic 3-2 victory on the 23rd of April would give Barcelona hope that they could complete the La Liga three-peat. On the 14th of May, with 2 games to go, Barcelona beat Las Palmas 4-1, where Neymar bagged a hat-trick in order to send the title race to the final game of the season. But the title was still in Real Madrid's hands, and despite winning the final game, Barcelona weren't able to clinch La Liga, as Real Madrid had now shifted the tide of Spanish dominance, picking up La Liga and their second Champions League in a row. Enrique's men played their final game of the season on the 27th of May, as Barcelona were able to defeat Alaves 3-1 in the Copa del Rey, winning it for the 3rd year in a row, but that's all they were left with for the season. They went from treble to double to just the cup, as this golden era was coming to an end. MSN had another great season, statistically combining for a total of 111 goals, where Messi bagged almost half of them with 54. Suarez chipped in with 37, and Neymar got 20 goals as he moved into a more of a creative role this season. At this point, Neymar was starting to believe that as long as he remained in Barcelona, he would always live in the shadow of Lionel Messi. So despite having signed a 5-year contract this season, he looked for an exit to try to become the best player in the world and hoped to lift the Ballon d'Or. So on the 3rd of August 2017, PSG broke the world record transfer fee to sign Neymar, with the idea that he would now step into the role of being the team's main man. Unfortunately for Neymar, this didn't quite go to plan. He was a great player for Paris, but never lived up to the player he hoped to become. As for Barcelona, they pretty much wasted the Neymar money on Coutinho and Dembele, who were both unable to leave a mark at the club. Suarez remained in Barcelona until 2020, where he was then pushed aside and opted for a move to Atletico Madrid, and Lionel Messi remained in Spain until 2021, when he signed for Paris to reunite with Neymar, but unfortunately, they could not rekindle the same fine form they had together at Barcelona. Now, Neymar is playing in the Saudi League, and Messi and Suarez have been reunited in the MLS, playing for Inter Miami, as the three of them are past their prime and slowing down their careers. Barcelona have now well and truly lost their spot as top dogs in Spain, as the 3 years of MSN are now looked back on as some of Barca's best years, with the trio combining for a total of 371 goals and picking up countless trophies in that time. What a trio. Now as MSN faded out of football, Zidane's Real Madrid took over, so let's get right into arguably the greatest side modern football has ever seen. In just 3 seasons, Real Madrid won 9 trophies, led by a manager who had never coached a first team before. But how on earth was this even possible? This is the story of how Zidane's Real Madrid quite literally broke European football.
3 in the box waiting for the cross, and it was Bale! And then Ronaldo! What a goal by Cristiano!
Real Madrid have won their 3rd consecutive UEFA Champions League.
To understand how Real Madrid conquered Europe, we have to start in the 14-15 season when Carlo Ancelotti was the Real Madrid manager. This was an off season for Real Madrid as they picked up no trophies, finishing 2 points off Barca in the league, losing the Champions League in the semis to Juventus, and getting knocked out in the round of 16 in the Copa del Rey. But despite finishing trophyless, Real Madrid were the highest scoring team in Europe, playing amazing football, and Cristiano Ronaldo had his best individual season ever. But the thing about Real is that no matter how close they get, a trophyless season is not good enough, as the standards are nothing short of success. At this time, Barcelona were the best team in the world, with the famous MSN trio terrorizing Europe and leading them to a treble, which fueled more anger amongst the Real Madrid fan base. The team was also in a transitional phase this season, with Xabi Alonso and Di Maria both leaving and new players coming in like Cruz, Navas, and James Rodriguez. It was also during this season that Zinedine Zidane was placed in charge of the Real Madrid B team, as he was still learning the art of coaching, having never coached a first team before. At the end of the 14-15 season, Carlo Ancelotti was dismissed as Real Madrid felt the need for a new leader and appointed manager Rafa Benitez, but this would not go so well. The 15-16 season saw the iconic Real Madrid team take shape even further, with Casemiro returning from loan, Kovacic and Asensio both signing, and exits from players like Casillas, Hernandez, and Khedira. There were now all the tools in place for a great team. They just needed a manager to guide them, and they would soon realize that Rafa Benitez was not that man. He opened the league campaign with a goalless draw against Sporting Gijón, but went on to win the next 4 in a row, scoring 14 and conceding 2. Ronaldo was yet again on fire, having scored 5 goals in a game against Espanyol, but something just wasn't clicking in this team because late in September, they drew 2 games back-to-back against Atletico Madrid and Malaga, making for a rocky start to the league campaign. Despite this, Real Madrid were still heading into November 1st in La Liga until they would suffer their first and second losses of the season, with a 3-2 defeat to Sevilla and a 4-0 El Clasico defeat to Barcelona, making that the heaviest El Clasico defeat in over 6 years. In the Copa del Rey, Madrid started the season with a 3-1 victory, but were disqualified from the competition 3 days later because they played a suspended player without realizing, meaning the cup campaign was over in just the first round. Looking at the Champions League, Real Madrid stormed the group stage, winning 5 and drawing 1, with the final game being an 8-0 thrashing of Malmo, where Ronaldo scored 4, Benzema 3, and Kovacic scored the remaining 1. As the year turned, Real Madrid dropped points in a 2-2 draw to Valencia, placing them 3rd in the league behind both Atletico Madrid and Barcelona. And this is when Florentino Perez pulled the trigger, sacking Rafa Benitez mid-season. It was announced that Zinedine Zidane would be promoted to first-team manager, and this initially was received with a lot of criticism, as he was a completely unproven coach. He was one of the greatest football players of all time and a Real Madrid legend, but there were serious question marks over his managerial capabilities. But this was all just noise, and Zidane was ready to prove everyone wrong. The Zidane era was opened with a 5-0 win over Deportivo with a Gareth Bale hat-trick, an ironic start considering how Bale and Zidane's relationship would deteriorate as the years went by. One of the first things Zidane did was introduce Casemiro to the starting lineup, as up until this point in the season, he was just a squad player. Zidane got off to a great start, winning 5 and drawing 1 in his first 6 La Liga games, but then came the end of February, where they drew away to Malaga, and then in the very next game, lost at home to Atletico Madrid. At this point, the gap between Real Madrid and Barcelona had grown to 12 points, and it felt like the league was done and dusted already, but this is where something switched. From the 2nd of March, Real Madrid went on to win every single game in La Liga, going on a 12-game winning streak, including a 2-1 away win against Barcelona, which ended their 29-game unbeaten streak. This game was dramatic to say the least, with Ramos getting sent off and Real Madrid having a goal ruled out, but thanks to a goal from Benzema and a late winner from Ronaldo, they were able to scrape the victory. By the time May came around, Real Madrid had salvaged their league position and were in with a chance to win it, taking the league to the final game of the season where Real beat Deportivo 2-0 thanks to a Ronaldo brace. But unfortunately, this was not enough as Barcelona were crowned champions by 1 point. But the league isn't where the magic happened this season because Real Madrid were able to take home an even greater prize thanks to a historic Champions League campaign. They breezed past Roma in the round of 16, winning both legs 2-0, with Ronaldo scoring one in each, but it's the quarterfinals where things really got dramatic. Real Madrid played the first leg away at Wolfsburg and were beaten 2-0, but it's in these moments where the big players step up, and come the return fixture, the biggest player of them all was ready. Minute 15.
He's been able to advance and play it in for Cristiano Ronaldo to score.
Minute 17.
Kroos, Ronaldo! They've done it in a hurry!
And minute 77.
Cristiano Ronaldo. Beautiful! Beautiful!
Cristiano Ronaldo walked away with the match ball, and Real Madrid marched on to the semi-finals to play against Manchester City. A goalless first leg and a 1-0 win in the second leg would see Real Madrid land a spot in the final and face their city rivals, Atletico Madrid. Zinedine Zidane had come into the job just 5 months earlier and had already transformed this team. Keylor Navas in goal, Ramos and Pepe creating a wall at the back, Marcelo and Carvajal bombing up and down on the flanks. A perfectly balanced midfield with Casemiro as the destroyer, Kroos as the deep line playmaker, and Modric as the box-to-box creative, and the front three known as BBC, Bale, Benzema, and Cristiano. Zidane had some players on his hands as they marched out for war, and a war is what they got. Ramos gave Real an early lead with the goal in the first 15 minutes. Just after halftime, Atletico Madrid had the chance to level it, but Griezmann missed the penalty, but still they clawed it back to 1-1 with a late equalizer. The game went through extra time and headed to a penalty shootout. Vasquez, goal. Griezmann, goal. Marcelo, goal. Gabi, goal. Bale, goal. Saul, goal. Ramos, goal. Juan Fran, miss. Ronaldo,
to win the Champions League. And he does do! Real Madrid have won the Champions League for the 11th time.
Real Madrid lifted their 11th Champions League trophy as Ronaldo finished the tournament with 16 goals and the season with 51 goals, which also landed him the Ballon d'Or, and Zinedine Zidane finished the first of 3 historic seasons in Madrid, but he was only just getting started. Now entering his first full season in charge, Zinedine Zidane was still receiving criticism, and doubters were saying that the increased expectations would cause his team to crumble under pressure. But the opposite happened. Zidane's men thrived. Marco Asensio returned from loan, and Alvaro Morata signed, adding more depth to the squad. This season, Zidane started to lose trust in Bale due to injuries and a general attitude issue, so there were more rotations in the front line. Real Madrid started the season with a Super Cup victory against Sevilla and carried on with this momentum leading into La Liga, winning the first 4 games and then winning their first Champions League group game against Borussia Dortmund. But this fine start would be put into question with 4 draws on the bounce, with 3 in the league and 1 in the Champions League. Come the 15th of October, Zidane snapped his men back into action as they thumped Real Betis 6-1 and just carried on winning. On the 19th of November, they traveled to Atletico Madrid and Cristiano showed up with a hat-trick to defeat them 3-0. This Real versus Atletico rivalry is a significant one in this period. Real Madrid beat them in the 2014 Champions League final, in the 2016 final, and continued to get the better of them in the crucial moments like we'll see later in this season. Real Madrid drew their first El Clasico of the season thanks to a late goal from Ramos, and in December they played in the Club World Cup, which they went on to win. In the Champions League group stage, Zidane's men went unbeaten but drew 3 games, meaning they finished second place in the group, handing them a harder draw in the knockout stages, but that just meant a more exciting journey. It took all the way until the 17th of January for Madrid to lose their first game of the season against Sevilla, which ended their 40-game unbeaten streak, a Spanish record that they had just broken, which was previously set by Barcelona just the year before. 3 days later, Madrid lost their second game in a row, this time in the Copa del Rey, which unfortunately knocked them out, killing any chance of a treble. But come the end of the season, they wouldn't be caring about this cup. Real entered the Champions League round of 16 and won both legs 3-1, comfortably moving on to the quarterfinals where things would get very controversial. Real Madrid won the first leg 2-1 with a Ronaldo brace, but it was in the second leg where the controversy occurred. Real were trailing 2-1, but scored 3 goals in extra time to win the game 4-2, and Ronaldo finished the game with taking home the match ball, making it a quarterfinal tradition for him. But if VAR was a thing here, 2 of these goals would have most likely been called offside. But anyway, they were now through to the semis to face their favorite opponents, Atletico Madrid. Cristiano Ronaldo scored a hat-trick in the first leg to pretty much seal the tie. Atletico Madrid won the return leg 2-1, but the tie finished in favor of Zidane's team, who were on their way to the final to face off against Juventus. Now, during this time, Real Madrid were in a La Liga title race with Barcelona, especially after they lost the El Clasico at the end of April. The league title went down to the final game of the season, where Real Madrid were in the driving seat holding a 3-point lead, and a 2-0 victory over Malaga thanks to goals from Ronaldo and Benzema sealed the league for Los Blancos, having now truly shifted the tide in Spain from the MSN era to the Zidane era. But with one game left to play in the season, Real Madrid had the opportunity to do what no team had ever done before, and that was to win back-to-back Champions Leagues in the modern era of the tournament. The formation heading into this final was pretty much the same as the previous year, with the only 2 changes being Varane swapped out for Pepe and Isco swapped out for Bale. The game kicked off, and within just 20 minutes, Mr. Champions League showed up as he always does to score the first goal of the game. 7 minutes later, Mandzukic scored an all-time great goal to give Juventus some hope, but as the game progressed, they just weren't strong enough to fight off the ruthlessness of Real Madrid with Casemiro, Ronaldo, and Asensio, all getting on the score sheet to seal the final 4-1 and conclude their second of 3 historic seasons. Cristiano Ronaldo was the star man yet again this year, scoring 10 goals in the Champions League knockout stages alone, as he showed up whenever it mattered. Ronaldo was named the Ballon d'Or winner, and Zidane was named the world's best coach, as Real Madrid cemented themselves as the best team in Europe yet again. But twice wasn't enough for this team, and they weren't ready to stop dominating football and building their legacy, so Zidane's men were coming for the three-peat, and they were going to prove the doubters wrong once again. Season 3. Surely they can't go 3 in a row, right? The 17-18 season began with Pepe leaving after 10 years with the club. Morata and James Rodriguez also made an exit, and they signed Theo Hernandez. As per usual, the season began with noise from people saying they can't do it again. Back-to-back was the best this team could do, but Zidane's men had something different on their minds. They began the season winning the UEFA Super Cup and the Spanish Super Cup, but the Spanish Super Cup proved to be a controversial fixture as Ronaldo was sent off and banned for 5 games. This derailed the start to the season as they only won 2 of the first 5 La Liga matches, whilst Barcelona had won all 5. In terms of the Champions League, they kicked off the season with a 3-0 win over Apoel, but one team in their group were able to get the better of them, and surprisingly this was Tottenham Hotspur, as they drew and beat Real in the 2 games they played, meaning they went to the top of the group, and Real Madrid finished second for the second year in a row. But despite this, Cristiano Ronaldo set a new Champions League record, being the only player to score in every single group stage match. Come the turn of the year, and Real Madrid won the Club World Cup for the second time in a row, but in La Liga, they sat in 4th place, 13 points behind Barcelona, which started to create doubts around this team. They never managed to catch Barcelona or even get close, as come May, Real Madrid finished in 3rd place, 17 points behind the champions. They were also knocked out of the Copa del Rey in the quarterfinals against Leganes, but as I'm sure you know, this season wasn't about the domestic trophies. So let's talk about the European competition. Real Madrid kicked off the knockout stages with a 3-1 victory against PSG with a brace from Ronaldo and a goal from Marcelo. They then won the away fixture 2-1 with another goal from Ronaldo and another from Casemiro, sending them through to the quarterfinals. This was a repeat of last year's final, and yet again, Real Madrid got the better of Juventus, but in this fixture, history was made. The first leg saw Real Madrid play away at Juventus, and they won 3-0, proving a comfortable victory. Ronaldo scored 2 and Marcelo scored 1, but Ronaldo's second goal has gone down as one of the greatest in the history of the sport.
And then Ronaldo! What a goal by Cristiano Ronaldo!
This goal saw the whole stadium of Juventus supporters stand up and applaud greatness. With this 3-0 victory, the tie should have been done and dusted, but as the second leg was played out in the Bernabeu, to everyone's surprise, by the 60th minute, Real were trailing 3-0. But as is just normal at this point, Cristiano Ronaldo was there to save the day as a penalty fell into his lap in the 98th minute and he blasted it into the top corner to send Real Madrid to the semis. Up until this point, Cristiano Ronaldo had scored in every single game this Champions League season, which is quite a crazy statistic. Roll on the semifinals and Zidane's men faced Bayern Munich, winning the first leg 2-1 and drawing the second 2-2 thanks to goals from Marcelo, Asensio, and a brace from Benzema, meaning for the third year in a row, Real Madrid would play in the Champions League final, and this time against Liverpool. This year, Real Madrid definitely had the hardest route to get there, having had to play the French champions, then the Italian champions, then the German champions, and then Liverpool in the final, who were on the up and up and actually won the tournament the year after. Zidane chose the exact same lineup as the year before because why change a winning team? And that definitely paid off. Now, this Liverpool team were having a magical season with the star man being Mo Salah, so it came as a massive blow when in the 31st minute he had to go off injured after a questionable tackle from Sergio Ramos. Liverpool fans say it was on purpose to neutralize the danger man. Real Madrid fans don't really care as the game carried on. Come the second half, Benzema was gifted a goal by goalkeeper Loris Karius, who would go on to have a nightmare of a match. 4 minutes later, Sadio Mane equalized, but in the 61st minute, Zidane made a substitution that changed the game, and it was the man who he had dropped from the first team and had ongoing arguments with for the past 2 seasons, Gareth Bale. Just 4 minutes after coming on, Bale scored arguably the greatest goal in a Champions League final ever.
Hello. 3 in the box waiting for the cross, and it was Bale! Oh, what about that? What about that from Gareth Bale?
The only other comparable final goal to this was by Zidane himself, who scored an unbelievable volley 20 years prior for Real Madrid. 20 minutes later, Bale took a shot from outside the box, which should have been a routine save for Karius, but the ball swerved and Karius was out of it, meaning the ball found the back of the net, and Real finished the game 3-1. And just like that, Zidane's men lifted their 3rd Champions League in a row, completing the three-peat and leaving a legacy like no other. Ronaldo finished the Champions League campaign with 15 goals and the season with 44. Bale finished as Madrid's 2nd top scorer with 21 and Benzema in 3rd with 11. Modric was crowned the Ballon d'Or winner off the back of this season and his World Cup campaign, and Zidane was named the Manager of the Year for the 2nd time in a row. Despite having just won the Champions League, right after the match, there were talks about the future of this team. Ronaldo and Bale both hinted at leaving in the post-match interview, with Ronaldo then announcing his departure to Juventus not long after. But the most surprising thing to happen was that a couple of weeks after the final, Zinedine Zidane announced that he will be stepping down as Real Madrid manager after the most successful period for the club in the modern era. After Zidane's departure, Real took a hit, causing an eventual return from Zidane, which was not the same love story as this one, but that's for another video. But what is for this video is a return that did work out, because it's now time for the second coming of the Galacticos as Carlo Ancelotti returned to Real Madrid to break football for the second time. After being sacked by Madrid in 2015, Ancelotti took a year off coaching to undergo surgery. He then went on to manage Bayern Munich, won the Bundesliga, and was sacked in his 2nd season. In 2018, he signed for Napoli, but only lasted a year as coach there too before being sacked, until finally he reached an all-time low of his career, Everton Football Club. He spent 2 seasons there where he finished 12th and 10th in the league, but one random phone call was enough for him to get up and leave England and head back to Spain. It was the summer of 2021, and Carlo called up the Real Madrid CEO Jose Angel Sanchez to see if he could get any players to Everton, and he asked how things were going in Madrid. Jose replied they were struggling to find a manager, and things weren't going too well ever since Ronaldo and Zidane left in 2018, and that's when Ancelotti simply offered his services yet again. Sanchez discussed this with Perez, and within 3 days, Ancelotti was out of Everton and back in the Bernabeu, where he was going to save Real Madrid for the 2nd time in his career. Interestingly, both Carlo and Real Madrid were in similar positions, both seemingly past the peak of their powers and in need of a career revival, and that is exactly why they were the perfect match. The core of the squad had actually remained pretty similar to the team he left behind, with Modric, Kroos, Carvajal, Nacho, Isco, Marcelo, Casemiro, and Karim Benzema, but there were also newer, younger players who were in serious need of guidance, with the likes of Vinicius, Rodrigo, Valverde, and Militao in the team. There was also a new goalkeeper in Thibaut Courtois and some heavy deadweight in Eden Hazard, but Ancelotti had a vision for this team. He made a marquee signing in Eduardo Camavinga and brought in Alaba from Bayern Munich, and the team was set for Season 1. Before this year kicked off, there were doubts over Real Madrid and what they could achieve. They'd been underperforming for years and were basically counted out in all competitions, but come the end of the season, these doubters would be proved oh so wrong. The biggest difference from his first stint in Real Madrid was going to be the lack of Cristiano Ronaldo, a man who scored over 50 goals per season. But luckily this year, Karim Benzema would grow into that role of being the main man, and as the season kicked off, he would begin to prove that, scoring a brace in the opening La Liga game. Vinicius also bagged a goal that game, which was a sign of what was to come. But from the moment Carlo arrived, everything changed for him and would get better season after season. They started the Champions League campaign with a rather rocky defeat to Sheriff in the group stage, but then the team switched back on and won the remaining 5 group games with Benzema, Vinicius Jr., and Rodrigo all on fire. Come January of that season, they also sat top of La Liga, holding a 2-point lead over second-place Sevilla. But even more interestingly than that, they sat 11 points off Atletico and 12 points off Barca, who sat in 4th and 5th place as they were both underperforming. From this position, they never really did slip in the league, and they eventually finished comfortably in 1st place with a 13-point lead, having it wrapped up in April of that year. But as much as they dominated the league, there was a second prize they were interested in, and there was truly magic going on in Madrid this season because they couldn't be stopped in Europe. They faced PSG in the round of 16, where Kylian Mbappe scored the only goal in the first leg to win the game 1-0 for Paris. Come the second leg, Mbappe scored early, and by the 60th minute, Real Madrid were trailing 2-0. But this is when Karim Benzema turned on the gas, scoring a hat-trick within 20 minutes to end the tie 3-2 and send Los Blancos to the next round, where things would be just as dramatic. They faced up against Chelsea, who were the current title holders, and Karim Benzema scored yet another hat-trick in the first leg to close the game 3-1. Chelsea scored 3 goals in the second leg, which would have put them through, but in the 80th minute, Rodrigo stepped up to send the game to extra time, where a 96th minute goal from Benzema would be enough to send Real Madrid to the semi-finals for somehow an even more dramatic fixture. This time, they faced off against Man City, and this Man City versus Real Madrid matchup is one that would be pivotal in this era, as whoever won this game over the next 3 years would go on to win the whole tournament, as they were clearly the 2 best teams in all of Europe. This first leg saw a 4-3 thriller of a game where Benzema scored a brace and Vinicius scored the third, as Real Madrid were heading to the Bernabeu trailing by a goal. As the second leg kicked off, tensions were high, and in the 73rd minute, Riyad Mahrez scored to give City a 2-goal lead and seemingly kill the tie. But this is Real Madrid, which meant until the whistle blew, anything could happen. In the 90th minute, Benzema played the ball across to Rodrigo to make it a 1-goal deficit, and then, 1 minute later, Rodrigo cropped up once again to send the game to extra time in one of the most heroic performances in Champions League history. 6 minutes into extra time, Karim Benzema was fouled in the box. A penalty was given, and of course, Benzema converted it, and Real Madrid held out this lead till the final whistle, sending them to the final to play against Liverpool. Now, this game was a bit less dramatic than the previous, with only 1 goal in it coming from Vinicius Jr. in the 59th minute, which proved to be enough for Ancelotti's men as they held out and were crowned European champions in just his first season back. This year was all about Karim Benzema, as he finished the season with 43 goals, landing him a Ballon d'Or. But this entire Madrid team were onto something special, having been counted out at the start of the season and now being crowned champions of Spain and Europe, and after some cigars and celebrations, they were back to work for the next season because this team was only just getting started. Carlo Ancelotti entered his second season back at Madrid now as the most successful coach in Champions League history with 4 medals to his name. He had also turned a toxic team with a lot of negativity into a team with passion, friendship, and a vision, and he was still adding more pieces to this puzzle as he signed Rudiger and Tchouaméni, bringing more young talent into the squad, whilst also shifting out more of the old guard in Marcelo, Isco, Bale, and Casemiro. Ancelotti's men started the season very well, winning 10 out of the first 11 in La Liga, with players like Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Valverde all growing better and better. They won the first Clásico and topped their Champions League group, and things looked like they were going to be a repeat of the previous season, but this is when things began to go a bit wrong for them. The World Cup broke up the season in December, and this halted their momentum as, when they returned, they couldn't find a strong vein of form. In the league, they couldn't go more than 2 wins in a row, leading to an eventual 10-point gap off first-place Barcelona. In the Champions League, they made their way to the semi-final, but this time round, Manchester City got the better of them with a 5-1 aggregate defeat, but despite this, they still won the Copa del Rey and the Club World Cup throughout the season, proving not to be a total failure. And anyway, the team was young, and it was clear there was a vision here, so heading into the 23-24 season, things would get taken to a whole new level. As the season began, Karim Benzema bid the club farewell after leading the team for the previous 2 years under Ancelotti, and the replacement to be the best striker in the world was a shock to everyone as Real Madrid signed Joselu, a nobody striker. But little did the Madridistas know that he would save their whole season come the end of it. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Ancelotti also finally got rid of Eden Hazard and offloaded Marco Asensio too, so at this point only 4 players remained from his first stint in charge, those being Modric, Kroos, Carvajal, and Nacho. But boy, were these men reliable. The new Galactico strategy also continued as Real kept signing the best young talents in all of Europe, bringing in Arda Güler, Brahim Diaz back from loan, and then arguably the best young player in the world, Jude Bellingham, for 100 million euros. Now, very few men are able to arrive in Real Madrid at such a young age for such a large price tag and thrive, but with the team and the environment Ancelotti had built, Bellingham exceeded all expectations, winning the La Liga Player of the Month in his first month and scoring goals for fun as a midfielder. The season was put into doubt early on as Thibaut Courtois tore his ACL, but this wouldn't prove to be too much of an issue as the season progressed, as the backup keeper Lunin was ready to step up. On the 28th of October, the first class and this Rolls-Royce start happening in the Champions League as well, as Real Madrid finished the group stage with a perfect 6 wins as they simply looked unstoppable. At this point, Carlo Ancelotti signed a 3-year contract extension, and the future was looking bright in Madrid as he transformed this team from a one-man band with Cristiano in 2014 and Benzema the previous seasons to a real collective, with goals being spread amongst Bellingham, Vinicius, Rodrigo, and even Joselu. As the league campaign progressed, neither Barcelona nor Atletico Madrid really posed a threat, with only the unlikely Girona pushing Real in the start, but they would fall away in the second half of the season until the 4th of May came around, where Real Madrid were crowned La Liga champions for the second time in 3 years. They also won the Spanish Super Cup against Barcelona, as Vinicius Jr. scored a hat-trick in that game, but as per usual, Real Madrid saved their most iconic moments of magic for the Champions League campaign, so let's walk through it. The round of 16 saw a tough 2-legged battle against Leipzig, where Real Madrid won the tie 2-1 thanks to Vinicius Jr. and Brahim Diaz, but as has become tradition, Real Madrid faced Manchester City in the quarterfinals of the tournament, and this was the closest game they had ever played, as the first leg finished square with 3 goals each, and so did the second leg with only 1 goal apiece, meaning this headed to a penalty shootout. Despite Modric missing the first penalty, Real Madrid managed to survive thanks to the heroics of goalkeeper Lunin, and for the 3rd year in a row progressed to the semi-finals, where they faced off against Bayern Munich. A brace from Vinicius saw a 2-2 draw in the first leg, and then come the second leg, Real Madrid were trailing with 2 minutes left on the clock, but this is when the unlikeliest of heroes stepped up. In the 88th minute, Joselu scored, and then in the 91st minute, Joselu scored again to send Real Madrid through to the Champions League final in yet another dramatic European night. Real Madrid faced off against Borussia Dortmund, and unlike 3 years prior, this time they were the clear favorites. Borussia were the more dangerous side in the first half, but they couldn't finish their chances, and come the 74th minute, Carvajal punished them, and then just 10 minutes later, Vinicius Jr. sealed the game with his second Champions League final goal, as he put on one hell of a performance that game. Real Madrid lifted their second Champions League trophy in 3 years, and their third under Ancelotti, and this was so significant in so many ways. First, it was Toni Kroos's final game of football, as he made the decision to retire at the very top, as he was now the player with the most Champions League wins in history, tied with 3 of his teammates in Modric, Nacho, and Carvajal. And secondly, Carlo Ancelotti now had lifted the Champions League trophy 7 different times, 2 as a player and 5 as a manager, which is the most in the history of the competition. This season ended with the goals evenly split amongst the entire attack, with 24 to Vini, who finished as the Champions League player of the season, 23 to Jude, Jude, who finished as the La Liga Player of the Season, 18 to the unlikely hero Joselu, 17 to the underrated Rodrigo, and 12 to the star-in-the-making Brahim Diaz. The scary thing about this team is that it is so extremely young, and entering the next season, it got a whole lot scarier as Kylian Mbappe became the latest superstar to join the Real Madrid ranks, meaning they now boast a front four of Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Bellingham. And so far into the 24-25 season, it doesn't look like they're having any issues with the massive egos, all because they fall under the Don Carlo Ancelotti, who has cultivated a team of friendship over a team of egos as he's turned a failing Real Madrid side into the best team in Europe for the second time in his career. What a manager!